Hi, I'm Paula from Paula Spec Ed, and this is Brad
Right.
from Hypnosis Changeworks. And we're going to talk to you today for a few minutes about anxiety. Now, anxiety is a word that we hear a lot of these days,
Being misused.
being misused. It's a word that's tossed around. We hear it in schools, we hear it in the workplace, and everyday life. I had a parent tell us once of her 9, 10-year-old daughter, well, she's been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. And I thought, what do you mean she's been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder? She's 9 years old. What is she, we might say, what is she to be anxious about? But obviously, a 9 year old, their worlds are still only this big. So there's lots of things that they could be worried about. But this word disorder that gets tagged onto so many different things now carries a stigma around with it. And people hear disorder, they think there's something wrong with me. I have some kind of disease, or this is something that I have now in my life. It's part of me. And it doesn't have to be that way. Disorder is a word which basically means out of order. It's not in the proper order. So
Well, yeah.
as your room is disorderly, what do? You clean your room up and put it back in order again.
So there are people even in the mental health field who have been taught to use this word disorder without question. That's just how they've come to their learnings. So they might not know any better. However, when someone tells you that something is not orderly, it often means that they haven't figured out how to put it into order. So they don't understand the structure of what an anxious state is. So first of all, it's not anxiety, it's an anxious state. And the difference being is that you do not have anxiety. I can't cut you open and find it. You can't hand it to me and I can put it in a drawer. I can't stick it in a wheelbarrow. It's a nominalization. It can mean anything to anybody. Whereas an anxious state is a negative state that we could subjectively measure as to how this feels for you. And we can actually find out how specifically you're processing it in the visual, the auditory, the kinesthetic to say, which one of these seems to be the way that you do it? Do you make pictures of it? Do you make sounds of it? And we can alter how you're doing that therapeutically in a specific process, which I won't go into here. So it's a concept. So we can conceptualize anything. I could ask you to paint for me the elephant that is in your head. And if it crushes you, then you're not conceptualizing it or recognizing this is just a concept in your head. You're assuming you're bearing the full weight of that elephant on your shoulders now. So that's the difference between a concept and being misunderstood as something that you really actually have, as opposed to realizing this is an anxious state that I'm experiencing and that it's transient. Emotional states come and go. And moreover, it's quite specifically about future pacing. So here's me today. My boss tells me I have 2 weeks to prepare for a speech, and I don't like public speaking, as an example. And I'm future pacing worst case scenarios. I'm literally looking forward to worst case things happening to me. And so what's going to happen? My mind is going to assume, my body's going to start to feel as if worst case things are going to happen to me. And I take that on as this very negative emotional state. I might be sick to my stomach. I might have trouble breathing. I can't sleep, all number of things because I am future pacing. I'm hypnotizing myself to believe this is what's going to happen. So there are ways to move beyond
Because
this.
you're not born with anxiety.
No, you're not.
You had to learn it, or
A limiting belief, yeah.
yes, you had to learn it, or it was taught to you, right? Just as there was an incident where I went to a field trip and there was a teacher there, and she had a group of grade 3 students with her. And as I went over towards the showcase, there were all these beetles and snakes and spiders, and she said, oh my god, stay away from that stuff, it's terrifying. And I thought, oh, way to go, you just gave about a whole group full of grade 3 students a phobia, or something to be anxious about. And she probably thought nothing of it because she lives with this every day, that she doesn't like spiders or snakes. But this group of students now, about 10 of them probably went home and had dinner that night and now have a terrible fear of snakes and spiders. And it was nothing to her, but she just basically taught them
Right.
an anxious state, and she did it within 30 seconds. And who knows how long they're going to carry that around with them now.
Because that's known as a hypnotic installation. And it's very self-preservation based. So we have a bias towards self-preservation, and we will get ourselves up and ready for the suggestion quickly because there's an emotion involved. We take that emotional state on, we take the suggestion on, and then we're fearful of the moth that got into the house and mom screamed about it or some such thing, or in this case, the teacher.
Right.
So we have to be careful because that's also known as prestige hypnosis. So when you have a doctor talking to a patient or a teacher or a parent talking to a child who they have great influence over these people, you have prestige over them. And this suggestion or this hypnotic suggestion that is made to them takes, and the person then takes that limiting belief on. We're not born, as Paula says, we're not born with these beliefs. We're not born with these limiting beliefs. We have two default settings that we're born with: the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. So the sensation of falling off of the rock that we've been put on in our caveman day or whatever. And we can sense this, and it again, it's a self-preservation bias that makes us uncomfortable. It's supposed to say, hey, this is what could happen. Make sure it doesn't. So when you feel an anxious state come on, when you have this apparent anxiety that you're calling it, it is your unconscious mind saying to you, you're focusing on all of the things you don't want. It's like a gauge on your dashboard that starts to come on when the oil light's about to come on, or your car is heating up or something. It's the same thing with us. It's saying, hey, you're focusing on all of the things you don't want. So to better assist you, it alarms you to this, and you start focusing again on all of the things you do want, because you don't go to the store with a shopping list of all of the things you don't want.
I mean, how many people do that, right? How many people write down on their list, well, I don't need pancake batter this time, and I don't need syrup this time. We focus on things, and we tend to do that in life. We do focus on things that we don't want, and
you get what you focus on. So focus on what you want.
That's right. So people who walk around saying, I don't want to smoke anymore, or I don't want to drink anymore, or I don't want to weigh 400 pounds.
They're focusing by giving themselves a negative suggestion.
Right. And so they should be thinking about and focusing on what they do want. I do want to have healthy lungs. I do want to eat
I want to
healthy
be out walking
foods.
and exercising or riding my bike.
That's right. That's right.
You can resolve these challenges rather quickly because people learn these patterns almost instantaneously. In the case of a phobia, you do learn it instantaneously. In others, you learn it rather rapidly. You might carry it with you for 42 years, but when you do a proper therapeutic intervention, you can collapse the problem state very, very rapidly.
So sometimes people can, even just within one session of hypnotherapy or with NLP, you can end up changing that response very rapidly, very quickly, and permanently.
So you could say, I'm back, I still feel anxious. And you say, okay, so when you think about the speech that we talked about last week, are you anxious about? Oh, no, that's gone. That's totally gone. Okay, so what is it you're anxious about now? Oh, I'm anxious about my wedding that's coming up in another 2 months. And then you resolve that for the person when they come back. So a person could have other situations with, there's 3 classical ways to run anxious patterns. So one is an intrusive thought, which is where you're behaving in a way that doesn't really seem to be who you are at your core. And then there are other ways where you're running ruminations. So this would be commonly you're processing the thought over and over and over again, whether it's doing it visually or auditorily. And then finally, overwhelm, where, and this is a question of values, where you need to learn how to put things in a specific order, what is most important in your life. So there are ways around each of these. The intrusive thought, I've said this to my clients and whatnot before, that if I have a butcher knife and I'm washing the dishes with Paula and I turn this way to put the butcher knife into the drawer, my unconscious mind has this bias that says, look out, you're going to hurt this person who you love and care about. And so that's what its intention is. That's what the structure of the behavior is about. But my conscious mind, which is puny compared to the unconscious mind, my conscious mind interprets that as, oh, I want to hurt my wife. And then I start thinking, why do I want to hurt my wife? And have all of these horrible thoughts, and it feels like an intrusive thought. It's not intrusive. It's there to defend you. It's there to defend her. And it has a structure or a positive intention in doing what it's doing. Everything your unconscious mind does has a positive intention behind it. It's just that not everybody knows how to recognize what the positive intention was. As far as the ruminations, repeating it over and over and over again, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do this, all the way till I get to the 2 week period. It's trying to run a checklist of all of the things I don't want to do. Better again to run all the checklist of the things I do want to have done. So ruminations, intrusive thoughts, and overwhelm are the three typical ways that people process anxious thoughts. And they do it either by voices in their head, which is also very normal, or pictures in their head, which is also very normal. These are called internal representational systems. We all use them to process the world around us, and they allow us to arrive at either a negative or positive thought. So why not think positively?
Right. So the two main things we want to take away from this is to focus on what you do want.
Yes.
So we're not making that grocery list of all the groceries we're not going to buy. We're going to focus on what we do want, and to realize that what we're experiencing isn't anxiety. I have anxiety. It's
A transient anxious state.
which is temporary.
Right.
It's a state. It's not permanent. It's not forever. So I am just experiencing an anxious state. And like any state, I'm going to get over that and
Right.
move on to something else from there. So if you want to learn any more about this type of thing or check out any of our other videos, you can look up Hypnosis Changeworks on Instagram and on Facebook, or you can see some of my videos on Paula Speck Ed, which is on Instagram, TikTok, or also on YouTube.
I think we've covered pretty much everything we wanted to cover there.
So until next time, we'll see you later.
Take care.